James Bond is back again, but his license to kill has been revoked in the new 007 adventure that stars Timothy Dalton. It's one of the movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, plus a look at a new video version of the Woodstock documentary and a tribute to the late Laurence Olivier. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is the latest James Bond adventure, and my basic reaction is that the picture is uneven, ranging from quite exciting to tedious. With Roger Moore now thankfully out of the picture, Timothy Dalton returns as 007, and the result is a more traditional character, less the wise guy, more the gutsy hard worker, and I like that difference. Bond's mission in the movie, License to Kill, is to stop a Central American drug dealer. Ignoring his government's demand that he butt out of the hunt for this drug kingpin, Bond worms his way into the crime boss's lair, posing as a problem solver for hire.
I thought I might find work here.
Well, it's very difficult to obtain a work permit in Isthmus. It's, well, one has to show a special talent that people here don't have.
Well, that shouldn't be too difficult.
The two good-looking women in the movie are Carrie Lowell as an ex-CIA operative helping Bond, and dark-haired Talisa Soto as the drug dealer's girlfriend who is attracted to Bond.
You're very professional.
Used to work here.
Am I going to win or lose?
Lose, but not much.
Naturally, License to Kill has plenty of action scenes. The best involves Bond trying to hook the drug dealer's airplane as sort of an airborne fisherman. That's kind of fun. Some of the other action scenes run on too long, as does the whole movie. If we get the point, they should move this thing quicker to its conclusion. The film also has sort of a dirty, unfinished look that I can't explain. They spend so much money on these pictures, I can't understand why this isn't just more crisp and good looking. But Timothy Dalton is solid as Bond. Robert Davi is a good villain, although the villain itself, the character as written, isn't that powerful. He doesn't seem like a classic Bond villain who's going to take over the world. There isn't a lot of romance there. He just looks like another drug dealer. I have to give the film, therefore, a mixed review. I can't recommend it enthusiastically, sort of reluctantly. It's a real close call for me. I give it thumbs down.
Thumbs up for me. I liked it, I guess, a lot more than you did. And one of the things I noticed was that they are trying, at last, to make the Bond pictures a little more contemporary in feeling.
That's the
I'm
Dalton
not sure
part.
that, yes, I'm not sure that I was happy that the villain this time is a quasi-realistic South American drug kingpin. I liked it better when we had the Goldfingers, you know, who were going to take over the entire world. I don't like, I'm getting tired of drugs as a subject of movies and an excuse for evil in movies. But apart from that, I think the Dalton character this time, Timothy Dalton's performance, has really found its stride. I think he has turned out to be a very good choice for James Bond.
I think so.
He's more matter of fact. He's a little harder, a little tougher, a little leaner. Less obsessed with sex, more involved in action. It's more of a performance that seems to realize that we've now had all the Rambo pictures, the Indiana Jones pictures, action pictures that have come along since James Bond, and that were threatening, I think, to make the whole series seem sort of obsolete.
Did you think, when you were sort of nodding, I could see out of the corner of my eye when I was talking about the dirty look of the film. Didn't that surprise you? I don't know what's wrong there.
There were a couple of missing shots, missing transitions. feelings that we got from one place to another place without it being explained.
But I'm talking about art direction. I mean, really...
Oh, that didn't bother me. One thing I liked in terms of art direction and stunt coordination was the final chase scene involving those 3 gigantic gasoline tankers down that twisting mountain road. I mean, that is as sensational a chase sequence as we've seen in any Bond picture. So I like that.
It's not a bad picture. Even this conversation, though, reflects the mixed nature, or mixed reaction I had to the picture.
Okay, next movie. And our next movie is the summer re-release of the 1953 Walt Disney animated feature Peter Pan. This is not a movie of classic status. It doesn't rate with the Disney landmarks like Snow White, Fantasia, or Pinocchio, but it is one of the favorite Disney feature-length cartoons, and it was fun for me to see it again and to remember scenes like this one where Peter teaches Wendy, John, and Michael how to fly.
Now, everybody try. 1, 2, 3. We can fly! We can fly! We can fly!
The movie has a lot of songs, but in my opinion, no great ones. We're Following the Leader is not exactly electrifying.
Following the leader, the leader, the leader. We're following the leader wherever he may go.
The movie's best scenes all involve the evil pirate Captain Hook, who lives in deadly fear of a crocodile.
Say, Captain, do you hear something? No. No!
Peter Pan, as much fun as it is not one of those Disney animated movies that is good for all ages. I think with this movie, the older you are, the less likely you are to find it interesting, just as I suppose the younger you are, the more you'll like it. But it's not like Snow White, which everybody, I think, of all ages loves. One thing I didn't like with Peter Pan was that it's another example of the recent Disney practice of cropping the original animated image at the top and bottom to make the movie look like it was drawn for a widescreen format, which it wasn't. These movies made in this period were shot in a 4:3 ratio, more or less like a television screen. And if you want to make them look widescreen, you're going to lose something at the top and bottom. Some of the original picture is lost, and it also means that some of the action is lost too, along with the original compositions of the great Disney artists. Now, there are several ways that Disney could respect the original ratio of their priceless animated classics, and I just wish they'd try one of them. I mean, Warner Brothers did it with a feature-length Daffy Duck cartoon. Why can't Disney do it, the people that originated animation?
Well, the one thing that's disturbing is that you can see at the very beginning of the film, as soon as it starts, they list the title critics, and I think one of them says animation by at the top, and then lists all the great animators that worked on the film. The words animation by, I assume that's the words they're sort of missing, and so you can sort of sigh in the beginning. Then, of course, the magic of the film does take over. For me, the most enjoyable part of the film, I'm surprised you didn't mention, was the drawing of Tinkerbell. That is exceedingly beautiful drawing, and with all the fairy dust and all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of that dust around there, which obviously was very costly, took time to do, and that's, I enjoy Hook and Tinkerbell.
Okay, I give you Tinkerbell, I give you Hook. In fact, you know, I'll give you the fit. Now, one question I want. Yeah. I happen to know that when you were a little boy,
yes, I said,
you went to see this movie 9 Saturdays in a row.
That's because it was playing 9 Saturdays in a row, and I loved it.
Now, do you agree with me that it's really not a movie that's as absorbing for adults as some of the other Disney films?
Well, as I saw it again, I was remembering the things that caught me, and one of them is there's a scene where Captain Hook sneaks up behind Peter Pan, who's been imitating his voice. And I remember that was the first time I'd seen somebody do imitations that at least someone my age, you sort of feel Peter Pan is your age, no matter what that age is, I guess. And,
gee, I don't know. I think he's a little younger than me.
Now. But he's doing it and into his cap, and Hook is climbing up the mountain.
Yeah. And
that was a very scary thing, and I felt that tension.
As you're telling me that story, I can see in your eyes that you're practically, 11 years old again. I mean,
I was like, 7 when that film came out.
It's still in your imagination.
Yeah, you were 11, I was 7. Coming up next, Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan investigate the age-old problem: can a man be friends with a woman without sex interfering? When Harry Met Sally is next.
I just didn't want to sleep with you, and you had to write it off as a character flaw instead of dealing with the possibility that it might have something to do with you.
Our next film is sort of an Annie Hall clone romantic comedy. It's called When Harry Met Sally, and it's Rob Reiner's latest film since The Princess Bride, and it stars Billy Crystal as a young man who is cynical about how men and women relate to each other.
What I'm saying is, and this is not a come on in any way, shape, or form, is that men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way.
That's not true. I have a number of men friends, and there is no sex involved.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You only think you do.
You're saying I'm having sex with these men without my knowledge?
No, what I'm saying is they all want to have sex with you.
That's Meg Ryan as Sally. Years later, they meet again and try to establish a friendship.
Would you like to have dinner with me sometime?
Are we becoming friends now?
Well, yeah.
They do become friends, which amazes Harry as he explains to his best male buddy.
I can say anything to her.
Are you saying you can say things to her you can't say to me?
No, it's just different. It's a whole different perspective. I get the woman's point of view on things. She tells me about the men that she goes out with, and I can talk to her about the women that I see.
The script was written in part by Nora Ephron, and it has a certain maturity.
I'm too structured. I'm completely closed off.
But in a good way.
No, I drove him away. And I'm gonna be 40.
When?
Someday.
In 8 years.
But it's there.
It's very difficult to write contemporary comedy, and when Harry Met Sally, while it's not in the same class as Annie Hall, the film does have some cute moments and a touch of the anguish of modern relationships with partners having maybe too much time on their hands. Actually, it's a better comedy than social commentary, with one hilarious scene involving Meg Ryan proving to Billy Crystal that most women, most any woman, can fake sexual response. A marginal thumbs up for me.
I give it a thumbs up, and I liked it a lot. I thought that the dialogue was very funny, that the characters were very attractive. I like this Meg Ryan, who was in Inner Space and DOA, two movies that didn't get probably the attention that both of them deserved. And I think that Crystal here is so tender. He's so warm. That's the key to his performance here, because everybody knows he's a stand-up comic and he can be wise and cynical and sarcastic.
Right.
But the way in which he apologizes to her a couple of times in the movie is something that I think is very hard for a male to do and a male actor to do, and he does it very well. But one thing I have a problem with you is with the scene that probably got the biggest laugh, and will get the biggest laugh, and that's when they're both sitting in a restaurant.
Right.
She says any woman can fake sexual climax. He doesn't believe her, and so she does it right there in the restaurant, you know, faking, you know. It's a funny scene. I agree it's a funny scene. I don't believe any woman would ever do that. I didn't believe she would do it. I don't believe any woman would do that.
Yeah, but it's a movie.
Well, but it's a movie that pretends to a realism that scene violates.
I don't think that the film is all that real. That's where I find it, the funny thing, and I compare it with Annie Hall, and there's a lot in the film that is very similar to Annie Hall. That's where the film started to suffer for me by comparison, because you know, Annie Hall to me was a faultless picture. I mean, every line counted, and every line seemed top of the head stuff. There was times here where the stuff didn't work. Well, but that's a funny bit.
Well, it is a funny bit. I'm not saying it isn't a funny bit, but it shows, in a way, one of the weaknesses of the movies, that they will go for the gag even if it violates the character. And Reiner, I think, is inviting comparisons to Woody Allen because he has the cutaways to the old couples who are talking. That's something that
their relationship.
And also, he uses the same kind of music that Allen would use, and he uses the same kind of structure. But still, I mean, in a way, it's unfair to compare it to Annie Hall.
No, it's not unfair. We do that all the time.
It's a very entertaining movie.
It's entertaining, but we do that. We compare pictures of kind all the time.
That's right. So we were right after all. I guess you're right.
I think the word you were right is what you were looking for.
Thank you very much. When we come back, a memory of the great rock concert at Woodstock and a look at a new version of the documentary film about that milestone of 20 years ago this summer. It's hard to believe, but this summer marks the 20th anniversary of the concert at Woodstock, which was described as the largest single gathering of people in history up until that moment. Well, I don't think anybody counted them, but at one point during the film, they refer to breakfast in bed for 400,000 people. That's a lot of people, all members of the Flower Power generation, all gathered together in upstate New York. Now, to mark the event, Warner Brothers this summer has re-released Michael Wadley's great musical documentary, Woodstock, and this time, on both the video cassettes and the discs, they've made a real improvement. They've dealt honestly with the fact that it was a widescreen movie and also a split-screen movie, which sometimes had 3 pictures on the screen all at once. In the original video version of Woodstock 3 years ago, which you're looking at right now, this is not the new version, this is the old version that they've replaced, the old non-letterbox version, you can just barely see on the right there a long shot of the traffic jam leading up to Woodstock. And on the soundtrack, the Grateful Dead's Jerry Garcia is describing how it looks But on this earlier video version, you can't even see what he's talking about.
There's this continual flow of people just right in the street, going along, and it's just...
Now, this is the new version, letterbox, so the entire widescreen image can be seen. And notice how much better it looks. You can see the traffic jam while he talks about it.
There's this continual flow.
What they've done to deal with the widescreen image of Woodstock is sort of revolutionary on this video. For scenes where only one image is on the screen, they go almost full screen, as in this famous song by Richie Havens.
Freedom, sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
When Wadley went to split screen down the middle, they letterboxed the image a little more, as in this shot.
Your love was like a rainbow, darling.
And Warner Brothers really goes all the way to the original aspect ratio, only for moments when there were 3 shots on the screen, like here with Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Don't let the past remind us of what we are not now. I'm not dreaming.
Now, what they could have done here is show the whole movie in that real widescreen gauge, but then I think people would feel that they weren't getting a big enough picture on their TV screen. On the other hand, when you have 3 shots across, you want to see all 3 shots. Right. You don't want to see just 2 of them or 1.5 of them, right, the way you did in the other image, in the other version. So what they're doing here is a compromise between giving you the biggest possible picture and giving you the full width of the widescreen split screen. And although purists may object, I think this is the right solution for this movie, and this movie only. I looked at Woodstock on video disc on the 4th of July a couple of weeks ago with a lot of friends and neighbors, and the film held up splendidly 20 years after it was made. It's got a lot of great music in it, but it's also a documentary that really does capture the feeling and the spirit of the late 60s and the rock concert that turned into a milestone and gave its name to a generation. So I'm glad to see this new video version.
Well, I think it's a good compromise for what they had. In theory, I would like to see the whole picture again in a theater. This is a picture that really calls out for the theater experience, yes. I think. I mean, I remember when I saw it for the first time in '69, and seeing those images pop across the screen, it was as if these people had been brought on stage in a strange way that was very, very exciting. Of course, Martin Scorsese did the editing in part on this picture and deserves a lot of credit for that. The music is absolutely wonderful. It tells a story. There's a dramatic arc to a concert, which there rarely is in any concert film because, you know, it's just playing the hits or playing the songs. And that's what's very special here. You have a real story being told.
Woodstock is one of the best films of the last 20 years. Documentary, rock concert or not, it's just a very good movie.
Coming up next, a tribute to the man regarded as the greatest actor of his time, the late Laurence Olivier.
I made you cry. Forgive me.
In the last few days, you no doubt have read and seen many obituaries of Laurence Olivier, who died Tuesday at age 82. Typically, these obits refer to Olivier as being the greatest actor of all time. But I've noticed that they are quite vague on why that is true. It leads one to think he may be just a convenient choice with a reputation built on repetition of the greatest title, or a lot of it having to do with his mastery of Shakespeare. In this tribute, let's try to get specific. In Olivier's 1948 version of Hamlet, which he also directed, notice how the camera moves to echo the tortured mind of Hamlet, turning in on itself as Hamlet mourns the recent death of his father and his mother's quick remarriage.
And yet within a month, let me not think on it. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little month, or ere those shoes were old, with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, all tears, while she, even she.
8 years earlier, Olivier appeared in his best film, Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca, playing a haunted widower. Here's his passionate speech, done in the style of Hollywood film acting of the period, but there is a purposefully desperate quality to this character.
We should have stayed away. We should never have come back to Manderley. Oh, what a fool I was.
That same desperate quality can be found in Olivier's favorite performance as the haunted vaudevillian Archie Rice in 1960's The Entertainer.
Well, you're a lovely lot tonight, really lovely lot tonight. I've played in front of them all, you know. Yes, I've played in front of them all. The Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, the Prince of Wales, and what's the name of that other part?
When his characters are desperate, those are the parts of Olivier's work that I like the best. For his last 30 years of his life, Olivier, however, used the movies more as a means of making a living than as a place to exercise his great gift. I saw him on stage as Othello, as an American in Long Day's Journey into Night, as an Italian in Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He was nothing less than mesmerizing. Stagecraft, supporting the English theater, and inspiring young actors is the true legacy of his later years. He gave his life to the theater as few actors ever have. That is Laurence Olivier's greatness, in my opinion.
He was a great actor. You know, one of the other movies that I was surprised you didn't mention was Wuthering Heights from 1939 with his great performance as Heathcliff. That's a great Olivier film. And in his later career, that sadistic dentist in Marathon Man drilling Dustin Hoffman's teeth to torture him is a scene that few people will ever forget.
They're all on tape.
Yes, they are. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. We had a split decision on License to Kill, Timothy Dalton's second performance as James Bond. I thought it was one of the better 007 pictures. Gene liked Dalton, but thought the movie was too long. 2 thumbs up for Peter Pan, the re-release of the 1953 Disney classic, although we wish the studio would respect the original screen ratios of its early movies. 2 more thumbs up for Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally, another sparkling comedy by Rob Reiner. And I suppose we would also recommend that people look at this new video version of Woodstock.
This is one to see, if you're going to see it at home, this is one to see on Laserdisc because you get that CD sound. And of course, this is a musical concert, and that's when you want the great sound that Laserdiscs provide.
I looked at it on Laserdisc, and I turned up the sound real loud. And if I'd done that with tape, I would have gotten a lot of hiss.
You bet it. From your friends as well. That's it for this week. Next time, we'll be back with reviews of more new summer movies, including Shag, the story of the coming of age of 4 Southern belles in the 1960s. Also, comedian Weird Al Yankovic parodies independent television and popular movies in UHF. That's all next week. And until then, the balcony is closed.